Imagine waking up one day to find out that your state has lost its voice in parliament. The decision worth lakh of crores, decision about roads, schools, hospital, your future are now being made by politicians who don't even represent your people properly. That's not a dystopian story. That is exactly what could happen to millions of Indians after 2026. Welcome to FlukyFacts, where we break down the biggest issues shaping our country in a way that actually makes sense. Today we are talking about delimitations, one of the most powerful, most misunderstood, and most explosive political topics in India right now. Constituency boundaries, political power, and the 2026 turning point that could change everything. This is going to be wild. Let's go. But first, what even is delimitation? Most people have never heard this word. Let's fix that first. Let me ask you something simple. Right now, India has 543 Lok Sabha seats. That's 543 members of parliament allocated across 28 states. Simple enough, right? But here's the thing that will blow your mind. Those 543 seats, they were fixed, frozen in time, based on population data from 1977. That's before mobile phones, before the internet, before most of you watching this were even born. India's population has exploded since then. Cities have doubled. Entire state gave grown three times faster than others. But the seats still locked in the past. And now, for the first time in nearly 50 years, a 2026 review could completely redraw political power in this country. The question is who gains, who loses, and why should you care? Keep watching, it gets very interesting from here. To understand all of this, we need to start at the very beginning. What exactly is delimitation? One word, one big word, simple idea. Delimitation is the process of redrawing the boundaries of electoral constituency based on updated population data. Think of it like this. Every Indian citizen deserves an equal political voice in parliament. One person, one vote, equal weight. But what happens when one MP represents 20 lakh people and another MP represents 80 lakh people? Suddenly, your vote is worth four times less than your fellow citizen vote just because of where you were born. That's not democracy. That's a distortion of democracy. Delimitation is the solution. It rewards boundaries to balance representation across states, ensuring that no matter where you live, your vote carries roughly the same power. It's sound fair, right? It should be straightforward. But in India, it has become one of the most politically charged conversation happening today. And we are about to understand exactly why. But if delimitation is about fairness, why does India even need it right now? What changed? Here's the reality of modern India, and its number that should shock you. Since 1971, some states have grown three times faster in population than others. Uttar Pradesh, Bihar, Rajasthan, these states have seen massive population explosion. Meanwhile, Tamil Nadu, Kerala, Karnataka, these states control their population growth through better education, better healthcare, better family planning policies. Now think about this means for representation. An MP from a fast growing state might now represent 80 lakh voters. An MP from a well governed southern state might represent just 20 lakh voters. Both have one vote in parliament, but one of them represents four times more people. And it gets worse. Rapid urbanization has swelled India's cities beyond recognition. One constituency in Delhi or Mumbai might have millions more voters than a rural constituency, but both send just one MP to parliament. The old boundaries are outdated. They no longer reflect ground reality. And that's exactly why delimitation is needed to ensure every vote truly carries equal weight. But the problem, fixing it creates winners and losers, and no one wants to be the loser. So, how does this process actually work? Who decides the new map of India? The process of delimitation follows three key steps, and each one is critical. Step 1, population growth and census data. It all starts with census, India's massive count of every single citizen. This data tells us how many people live in each region, how population have shifted, and where representation is now unfair. Step 2. The Delimitation Commission reviews boundaries. This is where things get serious. A special body, the Delimitation Commission, is set up to study this data and redraw constituency boundaries. They look at which areas have grown, which have shrunk, and where the current map no longer makes sense. Step 3. New constituencies are formed. Based on this review, new electoral maps are drawn. Some constituencies get merged, new ones are created, and the seat count for each state can go up or come down. The result, a completely new political map of India. Now, who exactly run this process? That's where it gets even more interesting. Meet the most powerful body you have probably never heard of, the Delimitation Commission. Here is something most people don't. The Delimitation Commission is one of the most powerful bodies in Indian democracy, and yet barely anyone talk about it. It is appointed by the President of India, and it operates completely independent of political influence. No party can tell it what to do. No minister can interfere. Not even the Supreme Court can overrule its order. Its authority is absolute. It redraws constituency boundaries across the entire country. And once it finalizes its new electoral maps, that's it. Done. The new map is law. It works in coordination with Election Commission to ensure the process is fair, transparent, and legally sound. Now you might be thinking, if it's independent and fair, what's the problem? The problem is simple. When you redraw boundaries based on population, you are inevitably going to give the more power to some states and take it away from others. And that's where India's biggest political fight is brewing. Let's take a step back and understand the history. Because this fight didn't start in 2026. It started decade ago. Here's a quick history lesson, and I promise it matters. India has conducted the delimitation exercise four times since independence. The first commission in 1952 gave India 494 Lok Sabha seats, reflecting the population of a newly independent nation. The second commission in 1963 updated this to 522 seats as India's population grew. Then came the third commission in 1973 and the fourth in 2002, both landing at 543 seats, the number we have today. Now, here's what fascinating after 1977. The seat count for states was completely frozen. States kept their same number of seats even as their population changed dramatically. The 2002 commission only redrew boundaries within states. It didn't change how many seats each state got. So, for over 5 decades, Uttar Pradesh, which has added 10 of millions people, has been getting the same seats count as it did when India was a much smaller country in terms of population. That freeze is about to end, and what happened next will define Indian politics for the next generation. So, why was it frozen in the first place? The reason is actually fascinating and a little controversial. Okay, this is where it gets really interesting. In 1976, during the emergency, the Indian government made a bold and controversial decision. The 42 constitutional amendment effectively froze seats redistribution until 2026. Why? Because of population control. The government wanted to encourage states to reduce their birth rates. But there was a problem. If states that controlled their population lost parliamentary seats as a result, what incentive would they have to do it? So the solution was simple: freeze the seat map, protect states that were doing the right thing on population control from losing political power. It was a policy that balanced development incentives with federal representation, and for decades it worked. Southern states invested in education, healthcare, women's empowerment. They controlled their population and they kept their seats. But there's an uncomfortable truth. Those states did everything right, and in 2026, under a fully population based delimitation, they might be punished for it. That is the heart of India's biggest political controversy right now. So, what exactly happens when the freeze ends? Welcome to the 2026 turning point. Mark this year in your mind, 2026. That is when the constitutional freeze on seat redistribution officially ends. And what happened next is a three-step domino that will reshape Indian democracy as we know it. First, the freeze officially end. For the first time since 1977, India is legally able to change how many seats each state holds in parliament. Second, the Delimitation Commission is activated. It begins reviewing population data, most likely from the census once it is conducted, and start drawing a brand new electoral map for India. Third, the new Lok Sabha seat map takes steps, and when it does, the political balance of power in this country shifts permanently. Northern states that have grown could suddenly gain dozens of new seats and therefore much more influence in parliament. Southern states that control their growth would find themselves with fewer MPs to represent their people. This is not a future problem. The countdown has already begun. Now we need to talk about the elephant in the room. Why is this so controversial? Why are states literally fighting about this? Here is the brutal truth about delimitation. It creates winners and losers. And right now, the fault line runs directly between North India and South India. On one side, states like Uttar Pradesh, Bihar, Madhya Pradesh, and Rajasthan. These states have seen high population growth. Under a population based delimitation, they are expected to get significantly more seats in parliament. On the other side, states like Tamil Nadu, Kerala, Karnataka, Andhra Pradesh, and Telangana. These states invested in education, healthcare, and family planning. They have low population growth. Under the same delimitation, they could lose seats. And here is the core of the debate. Is it fair that a state gets more political power simply because it had more children? Is it fair that a state gets less political power because it governs responsibly? There is no easy answer here. It is a genuine tension between two democratic principles: proportional representation, more people should in more seats, versus federal equality. States that do better should not be punished for it. This debate is getting louder by the day, and we are all going to have to choose a side. Let's hear from the South first. The argument is very powerful, and it comes from a place of deep frustration. Put yourself in the shoes of a citizen of Tamil Nadu or Karnataka for a moment. Your state built great schools. Your state invested in women's education. Your state encouraged smaller family. Your HDI or Human Development Index is among the highest in the entire country. You did everything right. And now, because your population grew slower than states that didn't prioritize these things, you might lose seats in parliament. You might have fewer MPs to fight for your roads, your industry, your hospitals, your share of the central budget. That is the fear of southern states, and it is completely legitimate. South India controlled population growth successfully. Tamil Nadu, Kerala, Karnataka, Andhra Pradesh, Telangana. These states are model of demographic transition that the entire world studies. And the argument from the South is simple and powerful. We should not be penalized for responsible governance. We should not lose political voice simply because we are better managed. This is not just a political argument, it is a question of justice. But the northern states have an equally powerful counter argument. Let's hear their side. Now, flip the lens completely. Uttar Pradesh, Bihar, Rajasthan, Madhya Pradesh. These are not just states, these are massive centers of human population. Uttar Pradesh alone has more people than Brazil, the fifth largest country on earth, and the argument from the north is just powerful as the south's. Representation should reflect actual population. If democracy means one person, one vote, then more people must means more seats. That's not a demand. That's simple mathematics. Right now, an MP from Uttar Pradesh may represent millions more voters than an MP from Kerala, but both have exactly one vote in parliament. Is that fair? Northern states argue that democratic fairness demands proportional seat allocation, that the current system actually underrepresents them and has done so for decades. They are not asking for a special treatment. They are asking for the same thing southern states says. They deserve equal representation. This is the fundamental tension at the heart of the delimitation debate. And unfortunately, both sides are right. That's what makes this so difficult. So, what could actually happen to parliament? Let's look at the numbers and they are staggering. Alright, let's talk numbers because the projected impact of full population based delimitation is staggering. Based on 2026 population data, estimates suggest Uttar Pradesh currently 80 Lok Sabha seats could jump to 128 seats. That's an increase of nearly 50%. Bihar, currently 40 seats, could rise to 70 seats. Meanwhile, down south, Tamil Nadu, currently 39 seats, could drop to 32 seats. Kerala, currently 20 seats, could fall to 16. And the total, the Lok Sabha could expand from 543 seats to an estimated 753, a parliament almost 40% larger than it is today. Think about what this means politically. Within 128 seats, Uttar Pradesh alone would hold nearly 17% of entire Lok Sabha. Any political party that dominates UP would have an almost unbreakable advantage in forming the government. The political center of gravity of India would shift dramatically northward. And that is why this debate is not just academic. It is about who rules India for next 50 years. But why does the average Indian, not just politician, care about this? Let's bring it home. You might be thinking, okay, this is all very interesting, but I am not a politician. Why does this matter to me? Here's why. Three reasons. First, your citizen voice shapes local governance and resources. The number of MPs your state has directly affects how much influence it has over the union budget, over roads, railways, hospital such as AIMS, IIT campuses, national projects. More seat means more bragging power for your state's needs. Fewer seats means your voice gets quieter in Delhi. Second, state power depends on seat count in parliament. National policy is made in parliament. GST, agricultural laws, education policy, defense spending. The states with more MPs have more say. Your daily life is shaped by these decisions more than you realize. Third, the federal balance affects every Indian equally. India is a federal republic. The balance between states is not just political, it's constitutional. It protects regional identity, language, culture, and autonomy. Disrupting that balance in any direction affects the very character of the Indian nation. This is not someone else's problem. This is our problem, all of ours. And that brings us to the final and the biggest question of all. What should decide representation in India? And so we arrive at the question that India must answer together. What should decide representation in a democracy? Should it be pure population, more people, more seats? That's the cleanest democratic argument. It treats every citizen as equal, regardless of which state they were born in. Or should we protect states that control their growth responsibly? States that invested in human development, that brought down fertility rates, that built better future for their citizen, even if it means slower population growth. There is no perfect answer. Both are valid democratic principles in tension with each other. What we can say is this: De- delimitation is not just a political issue. It is a question about what kind of democracy India wants to be. It shapes governance, who has the power to make decisions for the country. It shapes resources, which states get what share of the national budget. It shapes the federal balance, the very architecture of Indian Republic. The 2026 turning point is here. The debate is alive and the stake could not be higher. So tell me, what do you think India should do? Drop your answer in the comments. Share this video with someone who needs to understand what's coming. And if you found this valuable, hit that subscribe button on FlukyFacts because we are just getting started.